a few things I found very interesting to share in this video. And firstly is how the dialogue between Harald and Loki is very tense and it is very sad and it is very bold. When I was reading that part of the chapter when his dialogue happens, it went by like a flash, and I read that part very fast, and it felt very bold and it felt very heavy. We haven't seen any discussions or father son moments of Harald and Loki and even Heruddin, but this time we are getting to see a conversation or a dialogue between them, and this turns out like this, and it's very sad for Loki. He's very tense and he doesn't want to do that, but still he needs to go and stop him. So Loki went off for getting the fruit. And secondly, the fruit, the devil fruit of which is the national treasure of Elbaf and the Ragnir, who are in this chamber, and Loki goes to this chamber and then he is hit by Ragnir, which is possessed. Or there have been instances in the story where we have seen that some objects become alive because of some fruit powers or something, and here we see that there is some squirrel type of animal. Ragnir, the hammer, basically is a squirrel. When Loki tries to fight back Ragnar, this hammer, Loki's attack is so powerful that Loki's hammer breaks, but Ragnar is also somewhat injured or hit by this attack by Loki. And then Ragnar decides that Loki is worthy of holding Ragnar. So Ragnar lets Loki eat this fruit, and then Loki comes back, and we see that Loki goes for the goes for the hit to end Harald. Loki didn't wanted that. Last words of Harald are very sad, and there comes the third point: how Harald understands how behind the bitter words of Loki uh, there is love for Harald in Loki's heart, and he is not a terrible person. And through that, we can see how Harald is able to see behind the character of Loki. He can see through his mask, and he can see how Loki is not the bad guy, and not how many people perceive him. I think Ida and Harald are the only people and who could see through the mask of Loki, and they could really understand how Loki feels. This sad and tragic climax comes to an end with Harald's end by Loki's hands. And lastly, I would like to share some interesting things I found related to Gaban. When Shanks tells Gaban that there is this holy knights and various such fighting force and combat force in Marejois, the Holy Land, Gaban is surprised, and Gaban can't didn't really thought like that. So I think I can relate to Gaban here because most of us didn't really realize that there would be such combat forces and knights and these warriors and in the Holy Land, because what we have been shown for the major half of the series up until now is that there are these celestial dragons and nobility or whatever they are who live there, and there was not much trace of combat forces in Mauritius. So that's something relatable to be surprised about. And there's this one thing which Gaban shares to Shanks when Shanks questions him about how he knows that for your attacks to actually land and affect Holy Knights, you need to infuse your attacks with Haki of Supreme King. So then Gaban shares how when Shanks was in Roger's crew's custody, the Holy Knights would come to get Shanks back, and they would beat these Holy Knights, and they would fend them off. So from this, I think we can we can conclude that Straw Hats would be able to fight off and defeat the Holy Knights, Loki, Zoro, Gaban. These all characters who have Conqueror Saki can win over the Holy Knights who has invaded Elbaf in the present storyline. So that's the thing there. That's all from my side in this video. I would like to see you in the next one and thank you for watching. See ya.